M5D UFO Files. Unraveling the UFO Files. Revelations that change everything.
The views and opinions expressed by individuals in the following program do not necessarily reflect those of the broadcaster or its parent company or affiliates.
You are now listening to M5D UFO Files, unraveling the secrets of aerial phenomena.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we are really strapping in for a journey, one that takes us way past the usual boundaries of UFO lore. Forget the blurry lights, forget just asking if they exist. We're diving deep into the politics, the paranoia, and maybe the secret diplomacy that sources say defined America's initial relationship with non-human intelligence. And it starts not with Roswell in 47, but with a really high-stakes meeting in 1954.
That's exactly right. Our goal today really is to unpack this foundational narrative. It's all interwoven, It allegedly set the course for modern government secrecy.
Okay.
We're trying to link three critical alleged parts. That high-level agreement, people often call it the Greada Treaty,
Right.
supposedly struck by Eisenhower's administration.
Right.
Then the shadow government structure built to manage it all, Majestic 12, and finally the boots on the ground, the agents of intimidation, the men in black, the MIBs. They're the ones enforcing the silence, often in really terrifying ways.
And that's our mission here. This deep dive is about digging into the source documents, the whistleblower testimony, trying to figure out the bargain allegedly struck with these non-human intelligences.
Yeah.
We're looking at this terrifying trade-off, basically technology for access to people. And then we'll get into the strange, often really chilling methods the MIBs supposedly use to keep that secret buried. Permanently, sometimes.
It's the bedrock, really, of so much modern conspiracy thinking, because it claims this is the moment the government kind of lost control and had to take extreme measures to stop the global panic they were afraid of.
Okay, let's get into it. Part 1, the Great Bargain Eisenhower and the Greada Treaty, 1954. So the foundational moment, the whole alleged cover-up, supposedly kicks off with President Eisenhower's unscheduled trip. Palm Springs, California, February 1954. The official story they gave the press, it's almost funny, really.
It is a bit thin, isn't it?
Yeah, Ike's on vacation. He supposedly chips his upper left central incisor on some fried chicken, needs an emergency dentist. This fueled all sorts of press speculation. Was he sick? Was he missing? But this dental thing became the cover for something, well, allegedly much bigger.
And that cover story was crucial because, well, the president was effectively missing for an entire evening.
Yeah.
No verifiable record of where he was or what he was doing.
Right.
The alleged real reason, if you believe the sources claiming insight into the MJ-12 files, is that Eisenhower was, quote, spirited over to Muroc Airfield. We know it now as Edwards Air Force Base.
Yeah.
For a top-secret meeting.
Not just a sighting then, but a meeting. Diplomacy.
Exactly. High-stakes stuff. And it essentially locked in this long-term, really problematic secrecy policy. It marks a shift, from just picking up crash debris like after Roswell to actual interaction, diplomacy.
And the sources say Eisenhower's team wasn't just dealing with one kind of being, that the process was complicated.
Precisely. The first contacts were critical in shaping how things went down. The first race they supposedly met were often called the Nordics.
Okay.
Very human-looking, apparently. Tall, fair hair, sometimes pale blue eyes, colorless lips, that kind of description. But their terms for working together, ethical maybe, but politically impossible for the U.S. in 54.
What did they want?
They demanded the U.S. immediately dismantle and destroy all nuclear weapons.
Wow. Okay. Right in the middle of the Cold War.
Total non-starter. Plus, the Nordics refused to trade technology. They explicitly said they were worried humanity would just use it to destroy itself or, ramp up the arms race even faster.
So for an administration desperate for a tech edge over the Soviets.
Erected, fundamentally against national interests, as they saw it.
That decision feels huge, though. If the Nordics offered peace, maybe ethical tech, and they turned them down, only to then accept terms from the Greys that involved, well, what we're about to get into.
It looks like a Faustian bargain, doesn't it?
It really does.
And that leads directly to the second, much more impactful agreement, the one that stuck, often called the 1954 Greada Treaty. This was with a different race. The Greys.
Physically very different, right? Shorter, big heads.
Yeah, often described as insect-like or fetal, embryonic, and their pitch was different too.
How so?
They were much more willing to play ball on the technology front. The offer was basically an exchange. advanced tech which the U.S. desperately wanted, in return for the government keeping quiet and, critically, giving them permission to abduct humans.
Okay, hang on. Permission to abduct people.
On a limited and periodic basis, that's the alleged wording, for medical examination, monitoring, supposedly related to Earth's genetic health, and maybe helping their own race, which was said to be failing.
So the trade, humans for tech. But surely there were rules. Protocol.
Oh, yeah. Supposedly very strict protocols. This was the government's way to, maintain some control or the illusion of it. The key points in the alleged documents: abductees must not be harmed. They had to be returned to where they were taken within 48 hours. And crucially, the Greys had to give MJ-12 a list of all human contacts and abductees regularly. Sources say this was formally signed at Holloman Air Force Base in New Mexico, July 1954.
Wow. Okay, so if you strike a deal like that, you need places to manage it all, right? Infrastructure.
Yeah, absolutely. The treaty terms specifically mention the Greys providing tech anti-gravity stuff, exotic metals, and the U.S. government providing underground bases for joint use. These deep underground military bases, or DUMBs.
And they built them in specific places.
Very specific. Chosen for remoteness and, maybe more importantly, jurisdictional complexity.
Meaning?
Primarily beneath Indian reservations in the Four Corners area. Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, Arizona, and of course the big one in Nevada. Dreamland, Area 51, at Groom Lake.
Why Indian reservations?
Well, think about it. Placing these facilities under sovereign tribal lands adds another layer of complexity on top of the military secrecy. It helps keep civilian oversight, environmental checks, all that stuff at bay. Huge tracts of land, minimal public scrutiny. A legal gray zone, basically.
And Area 51, Dreamland. It's famous for experimental planes, but the sources say it was much more.
Oh, way more than just a test site. Allegedly, it was put under Navy control, interestingly. But getting access requires super high clearance, Q clearance, and executive approval, like presidential or majestic level approval.
Okay.
Sources claim Area 51 wasn't just for reverse engineering labs. It actually housed, supposedly, at least 600 alien beings full-time, working alongside U.S. scientists, CIA personnel.
600.
That's the number cited. And maybe the most shocking part, tying back to the secrecy, the claim is that sometimes even the president didn't have clearance to visit. The power had arguably already shifted.
Okay, so the Greta Treaty creates this massive diplomatic, ethical mess. What structure did they set up to manage it all? This is where Majestic 12 comes in, right? The shadow government.
Exactly, MJ-12. And its existence allegedly actually predates Eisenhower's treaty, supposedly set up by executive order back in September 1947 by Truman, right after Roswell seemed to confirm non-human tech was real.
And its job was?
Absolute control. It was designated a top secret research and development intelligence operation, handling crashed UFO recovery, reverse engineering, all ET interaction, and crucially, reporting directly and only to the president, the ultimate secret society within the government.
And the people involved weren't just like military guys. The sources mention the wise men.
No, these were the big players, the architects of the Cold War security state. The initial members listed in the documents are heavy hitters: Admiral Hillenkoetter, first director of Central Intelligence; James Forrestal, first secretary of Defense; Dr. Vannevar Bush, the science guru. But the sources consistently point to involvement from people high up in organizations that basically define the U.S. deep state. The Council on Foreign Relations, the Jason Group.
Okay, pause there. For people listening, who are the Jason Group? And why does CFR involvement supposedly matter so much?
The Jason Group is this elite, invitation-only club of scientists, physicists, engineers who advise the government on really sensitive national security stuff. Their involvement suggests that the top scientific minds were brought in immediately to figure out the tech.
Right.
And bringing in guys like John McCloy, Robert Lovett, Dean Acheson, the so-called wise men, allegedly later figures like George Bush Sr., Zbigniew Brzezinski. That tells you something. These weren't just government officials. Many came from old money, powerful institutions, Skull and Bones, Scrolling Key, that sort of thing.
Meaning it wasn't just the military running the show?
The sources suggest it points to deep, non-governmental shadow influence. The financial, academic, political establishment working outside normal democratic checks and balances, ensuring continuity, secrecy across different presidents.
Which brings us back to that core question. Why keep it so secret? Why did Truman, Eisenhower, this elite group, decide not to tell the public? The sources talk about specific fears, right? Discussed at Quantico.
Yeah, the overriding fear was just catastrophe, complete breakdown. Their internal projections were terrifying, apparently. They decided against going public because they feared immediate economic collapse.
Okay.
A total collapse of the religious structure. I mean, think about it. Proof of non-human intelligence challenges fundamental beliefs for billions. And just widespread national panic, maybe leading to anarchy. That mindset stability over truth totally dominated the policy talks at Quantico after the Great Deal.
So, to keep this lid on this unprecedented level of secrecy and avoid Congress finding out, they had to bend the rules, skirt the Constitution.
That's where the political maneuvering gets really interesting and, arguably dangerous for democracy.
Yeah.
Technically, the Great Treaty was like an agreement with a foreign power, right? Even if non-human.
Should go to the Senate for ratification.
Exactly, which would mean public disclosure. So, to dodge that, they allegedly used executive memoranda. The key one cited is NSC 5511.
NSC 5511, what did it do?
It was supposedly the implementing document created right after the treaty.
Yeah.
It authorized MJ-12 to handle the alien question, basically conduct foreign policy, without any congressional oversight. They used the National Security Council structure as a cover.
How?
Well, there's NSC 54122, that was the public known group looking into unconventional air threats. But the real secret group, authorized under NSC 5511, was supposedly just 35 members from the Council on Foreign Relations Secret Study Group, meeting in total secrecy, often at Quantico.
So the executive branch basically committed the U.S. to this huge deal involving human rights issues, tech exchange, all bypassing the Constitution's treaty process.
That's the allegation, a massive end run around checks and balances.
And connecting this back, this kind of secret power accumulating with this elite group, it sounds exactly like what Eisenhower warned about in his farewell address.
It really does. People usually hear Eisenhower's 1961 farewell speech just in terms of Cold War military spending. But if you view it through the lens of the alleged Great Treaty and the rise of MJ-12, his words sound chillingly different.
How so?
Whistleblowers argue his warning against the military and industrial complex and the disastrous rise of misplaced power was really a veiled shot at these secret national security bodies like MJ-12, the shadow structure that had gained huge unchecked influence precisely because of the secrecy dilemma he arguably helped create. He was warning that a power center had formed in the dark that could threaten liberty.
Okay, so if MJ-12 is the shadow government managing the policy, the paperwork, then the men in black, the MIBs, are the ones out there enforcing it, the muscle.
Yeah, they're seen as the primary physical enforcers of the secrecy policy, the UFO silencers. Their job is to suppress the truth using intimidation, confiscating evidence, and just pure psychological terror.
And the accounts of encounters with them are consistently weird.
Totally bizarre and terrifying. Which leads to the big question. Are they just highly trained government agents using psyops, or are they something else, maybe non-human themselves, part of the operational structure of this whole cover-up?
What jumps out from the sources is how uniform yet strange their appearance is. Always the suits, but the physical details, uncanny.
Always immaculate. Brand new black suits, often the hat, gloves, dark sunglasses, no matter the weather or time of day. But witnesses consistently report odd physical traits that don't just scream black ops, often this unnatural, pale, almost albino-type white skin.
Like medically pale.
Yeah, like maybe lacking normal blood flow or pigment. And a total lack of facial hair. No 5 o'clock shadow, no eyebrows you can see, no eyelashes.
And how they talk is just as weird as how they look.
Absolutely. Voices described as teeny, mechanical, sometimes a weird sing-song quality, clipped, stilted phrases, like they're struggling with human speech patterns or maybe translating thoughts. And then there's the incredible social awkwardness, the classic story, right? An MIB complains his stomach hurts, then tries to drink a bowl of Jell-O, like just tilt the bowl back, until someone showed him how to use a spoon.
Okay, but wait. If these are super smart aliens or elite government agents, why the Jell-O incident? Is that proof they're not human, or is it maybe a deliberate tactic to freak the witness out?
Could be either, or both, right? If they're not human, maybe they genuinely struggle with basic stuff like cutlery or human emotions. If they are human agents using psych warfare, then hitting that uncanny valley looking almost human but being slightly off is a perfect way to terrify someone, make them confused, maybe make them doubt their own memory later.
Even how they get around seems off. Defying physics sometimes, which again makes you doubt the simple government agent theory.
Their vehicles are always described as top of the line. New, shiny black cars, often Cadillacs or these huge, maybe military-style black SUVs. But witnesses say they move silently, like no engine noise, no tire noise, and then they just disappear. The witness at the Albany Rural Cemetery said this massive black SUV just appeared right behind her, no sound at all. And the man in black who got out He just disappeared, just blinked out.
Yeah.
Gone. There are even accounts of vehicles driving through things, like an SUV vanishing straight into a chain-link fence, suggests some kind of tech messing with space or matter.
Okay, let's really drill down on the Wildwood case from 1967, because the sources present this as maybe the strongest argument for MIs being not human.
Wildwood is peak high strangeness. An MIB shows up at the Christensen house, says he's from the Missing Heirs Bureau, which is just a bizarre name to start with.
Yeah.
He's described as super tall, like 6'6", but with really thin pipe stem limbs, dead white skin, bulging eyes, like maybe a thyroid issue. And at one point, he suddenly turns bright red, seems distressed, needs water quick, and swallows this big yellow pill to go back to his normal pale color.
Okay, weird. But the really strange part, the physical evidence.
This is the kicker. Witnesses saw a long, thick green wire attached to the inside of his leg, running up under his pants. They said it looked like it was actually indented into his pale skin, right below a big brown spot on his leg.
A green wire attached to his leg.
Yeah, a green wire. That detail just blows the whole government agent in a suit idea out of the water, doesn't it?
Right.
It sounds more like some kind of biological machine. A drone needing power, something connected to him that got exposed because he moved awkwardly.
So the goal of all these bizarre tactics, the weird appearances, the impossible physics, it's intimidation, confiscation, just making people shut up.
Absolute silence, enforced by pure fear. And the accounts suggest they were very effective at destroying evidence. There's the story of the guy who took supposedly the most realistic photo of a UFO ever. Tracked down by 2 men from the government, forced him to hand over the negatives, warned him he'd disappear if he ever talked. The allegation is that's why mostly only crappy photos make it out. It keeps the public skeptical, maintains ridicules, another layer of secrecy.
And this really did scare early UFO researchers, like shut them down completely.
Oh, absolutely, immediately. Prominent guys like Albert K. Bender, head of the International Flying Saucer Bureau, John Stewart down in New Zealand. They just folded their organizations right after MIB visits.
Wow.
And it went beyond threats. Stewart was physically attacked, shoved downstairs by something invisible in front of witnesses. And then, to really break him, his girlfriend was allegedly molested by some invisible creature in their own home. That terrified them into total silence. They quit all research. This wasn't just censorship. Sources suggest it was psychological warfare meant to destroy their lives or careers.
So if threats and harassment are the start, the sources suggest it sometimes goes much further, to permanent silencing, especially if someone gets too close to revealing really sensitive stuff.
Exactly. That seems to be the pattern. When researchers threaten to expose deep black projects, actual ET interaction details, or maybe the darker side of the alien presence, something that contradicts the official narrative, maybe violates the treaty terms, things can escalate to highly suspicious deaths designed to shut them up for good.
This is a really dark turn. You're talking about whistleblowers who died under mysterious circumstances, right? People exposing the DUMBs, the military side of things, like Phil Schneider.
Phil Schneider, yeah. He died in 1996. Officially ruled a suicide, strangled with a catheter wrapped around his neck, which is odd, to say the least.
Very.
Schneider had been incredibly outspoken. He was touring, giving talks, claiming he was part of building DUMBs, and that back in 1979, he survived this massive firefight with Greys at the Dulce Base, one of those joint facilities from the Greta deal. Said 66 U.S. military personnel and Black Berets died. Claimed he got hit with some kind of beam weapon that gave him the cancer that was killing him.
So what made his death look suspicious apart from the weird method?
Well, his friends and family just didn't buy the suicide ruling. And after he died, they noticed stuff was missing from his apartment.
Right.
Critical evidence he used in his talks. Strange metal samples he claimed came from the bases. Photos, including supposed images from Operation Crossroads, showing UFOs rising out of nuclear mushroom clouds.
Wow.
And all the notes for the book he was writing about UFOs and DUMBs. It looked like someone had cleaned the place out, looking for specific sensitive material, not just dealing with a suicide scene.
And there's a similar pattern with Ron Rummel. He was digging into something really core, wasn't he, about the nature of the alien-human relationship itself, suggesting the treaty was being violated.
Yeah, Ron Rummel, he was ex-Air Force intelligence, published a magazine called Alien Digest, found dead in 1993. Another alleged suicide shot himself in the mouth.
Okay.
His work was touching on really explosive stuff. The idea that the alien presence wasn't benign, that there might be a predator-prey dynamic, even suggesting humans were being used for food or recyclable body parts by the Greys.
Which would completely shatter the Greta Treaty's rule about no harm.
Absolutely. If true, it meant the government's deal was a catastrophic failure. maybe even complicity. So his death raised a lot of red flags.
No kind of flags.
Independent investigators found it highly suspicious, no fingerprints on the gun. His body supposedly smelled strongly of sodium pentothal, that's a truth serum, a powerful sedative. And maybe the most damning thing, the suicide note, allegedly written by a left-handed person. Rommel was right-handed.
Oh, wow. That points strongly to staging, doesn't it?
It really suggests someone else was involved, making it look like a suicide.
And this pattern goes back even further. Morris K. Jessup, 1959. He was looking into really sensitive tech mysteries way before MIBs were common knowledge.
Jessup, yeah, an astrophysicist. He was deep into the Carlos Allende letters, the whole Philadelphia experiment story, claims about Navy tech, invisibility, maybe even time manipulation. Found dead in his car, supposed carbon monoxide poisoning.
Also suspicious.
Very. No autopsy was done, even though state law apparently required one. People who saw the scene described it as too professional, again suggesting staging. And friends said he'd been getting strange, scary phone calls right before he died. Said they'd pushed him into, quote, a completely insane world of unreality. Then he was dead.
So you take these deaths and you combine them with the pattern of researchers getting weird, fast-acting illnesses, like Carla Turner. Suggests maybe technological attacks.
It definitely raises that question. Targeted suppression using technology, or maybe even alien retaliation, as some sources suggest. Researchers like Carla Turner and Livingston, both looking deep into abduction realities, often highlighting the negative aspects, but they both died very quickly from aggressive cancers. It just felt unnatural to many in the field, designed to silence them permanently.
And we should remember, it's not just the pale guys in suits doing the silencing.
Right. The sources mention a whole toolkit for enforcement, all seemingly tied back to keeping that 1954 bargain secret. You hear about black helicopters like the Apache and Black Hawk, reportedly used during a Canadian UFO recovery near West Carleton, swooping in to grab debris fast. Unmarked panel trucks showing up. And even those unseen forces, like the one that attacked Jon Stewart or terrified his girlfriend. It suggests a really wide-ranging apparatus dedicated to maintaining the cover-up.
Okay, let's try and pull this all together for everyone listening. The narrative we get from these sources, the testimonies, it suggests this huge decision by Eisenhower back in '54 led to this entire really elaborate system designed to manage the public reaction to ETs and grab that tech advantage.
Yeah.
And that system went from shadow diplomacy, MJ-12, to bending the Constitution with things like NSC 5511, and then finally to kinetic enforcement, often outside the law, by these MIB figures.
And the central tension, when you look at the whole picture, is the integrity of that original deal, the Greada Treaty.
Right.
It supposedly had rules, right? Protect humans, report abductions to MJ-12.
Right.
But if the goal of all the secrecy was just to prevent panic, then what is this history of MIB harassment, these suspicious deaths, these claims of humans being used for parts? What does all that tell us about the real nature of the agreement?
It implies the rules were broken, almost immediately. That the treaty terms, the protection for humans, the reporting, it just didn't happen or couldn't be enforced.
Right.
Leaving the government stuck, maybe compromise, trying to manage a partner they couldn't actually control.
They might have traded a short-term perceived military gain for a massive long-term existential problem.
And the question of power, like Eisenhower warned about.
Exactly. Did creating MJ-12 using things like NSC 5511 basically create a power center that became instantly independent of democracy, operating under its own rules, driven by fear, leading to the suppression, even violent suppression, of its own citizens? The sources certainly suggest that.
And maybe one last thought, going back to the treaty itself, that 48-hour return rule, it seems specific, right? Earth time. But if these Greys, or whoever, have tech that can manipulate space-time, maybe our linear time is meaningless to them. Why agree to a 48-hour limit based on our time?
That is a fascinating point, isn't it? If they operate outside our time, agreeing to 48 hours seems weird. Is it just them playing along, a kind of token gesture? Or maybe it's strategic misdirection.
How so?
It gets the U.S. government focused on monitoring this simple time frame. Did they come back in 48 hours? It keeps them busy tracking that, maybe stops them asking deeper questions about what really happens during an abduction or the implications of the tech involved. It maintains the illusion that the U.S. still has some control, some oversight over something they maybe never could oversee.
So in that bargain struck back at Morocco, were we actually negotiating a treaty, or were we just accepting terms dictated to us? Something to think about. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.
M5D UFO Files. Unraveling the UFO Files. Revelations that change everything. M5D UFO Files is now live in a world where truth hides in shadows and secrets echo across dimensions. One voice dared to ask the questions no one else would. Now, the journey continues, not on Spotify, but on YouTube. Welcome to M5D UFO Files, the channel where reality bends and the unexplained takes center stage.